Welcome back, and joining me for a closer look of the day's trading session is Jordan Toy from Legacy Family Wealth. Thank you so much for your time, Jordan. It's been quite a busy day. We've just started September and it feels like we've just sped right into it with the results season heating up. And actually talking about results season, I saw that Discovery was actually one of the winners on the JSE, and that's after obviously they released their trading statement for the year. That share jumping over 5% earlier. Company saying that they expect double-digit growth in their metrics, seeming that all business units contributed to that. Solid effort from Discovery?
Yes, so I mean that was quite a strong trading statement out of Discovery today. Obviously a very well-known South African brand, very integrated financial services business, playing in, from medical aid to life insurance, short-term banking, more recently banking, the invest as well. And as you mentioned there, a strong result across all of those divisions. The one that really jumped out at me was their insure division. I think profits were up over 200% in that space, but also a good showing out of the invest business. And interestingly, the bank, obviously that takes a bit more time to get to scale and something that they've been working towards. But it sounds like they're still ahead of plan there. They talked about a big reduction in the sort of losses in that business, if I can say that. And if I'm not mistaken, their first profitable second half in the bank. So some pleasing numbers out of Discovery today, and the share price up strongly off that and building on its gains year to date.
All right. Well, let's go into food, and clothing retail, because this one has both, and that's Woolies, of course, releasing their year-end results today. Top line growth that we saw there, but a softer bottom line. Company highlighting a much improved second half in the SA business. Country Road, though, still remaining a thorn, but quite surprising that that share ticked up a little by almost 2% on the day. Just lay the table on the numbers there.
Yes, so a very interesting one. It's not always the case that somewhat lackluster results, if I can be somewhat harsh, it gets rewarded by the market, and I think it's a case of what expectations are already baked into that share price. So clearly the market believes that the results were somewhat better than initially anticipated. As you correctly mentioned, the food business keeps paying the bills, and Australia remains the thorn in the side there. Country Road Group continuing to be somewhat of an issue within Woolworths, but a pleasing set of numbers, I think, or somewhat more pleasing than as I said, that the market maybe expected. And I think at its current valuation, obviously fair value is open to interpretation, but at around about 16 times earnings and a 4% dividend yield, I think it's at a relatively fair value. So we'll have to see where things go. It feels like we've been talking about Australia and Australian businesses weighing on Woolworths for years now. So hopefully I think that's the key, right? That's the key factor that they need to turn around to get the business really flying, and the share price hopefully increasing off the back of that.
Well, talking about expectations being built into the price, it would seem that all the bad news has been largely priced into Aspen. It actually didn't take as much of a knock as I thought it would today. I think the last time it was down more than 1%. But of course, it released its year-end results, and the thing that we've been looking at is what happens amid this contractual dispute. They did incur a loss. How would you characterize that performance?
I think definitely a disappointing in the sense of, that what was once an exciting growth story in that contractual dispute around the mRNA side of the business is now something that's become quite a drag. Again, I think it's a case of the market is well aware of a number of these factors, and a lot of that is baked into the price. Looking forward, I think what excites me more is the GLP-1. So we know these weight loss and diabetes drugs in the US are doing really well, whether it's Eli Lilly or Novo Nordisk's. I think that is a potential growth area for Aspen, and I think one that they continue to position themselves in, especially Mounjaro from Eli Lilly. So that for me, looking forward, obviously we know where the state of the business is currently, but I'd be excited to see if they can really sort of monetize that. And I mean, weight loss is a global problem, not just a South African or American problem. Arguably, the US battles a bit more with obesity levels than we do, but I think that there's definitely scope for that to do well in the South African market.
All right. Well, a company that has, I think, performed better than I expected is Cashbuild. They released their annual results today, and you saw growth both from the top line and the bottom line, actually double-digit growth in the bottom line. Share price softening a little bit, though. I'm wondering if there's maybe skepticism on the sustainability of this growth on Cashbuild.
Certainly. I mean, on both sides, I think it was a resilient set of results, but on the other side of the equation, we had sort of net store closures. I don't think that that's immediately a glaring negative. It does show that management is attuned to where stores are working, where stores are not working. We know that they're working on refurbishing some of those stores as well. But being a sort of a value-oriented retailer in the sort of building supply space, something we talk about a lot or I talk about a lot, is sort of the lack of economic growth. And I think that that's a company that, when that activity is not taking place, their margins are not the biggest to begin with, that can negatively impact them quite quickly. We'll have to see where things go from here. I thought it was pleasing that they still managed to squeeze out decent revenue growth. I think it was around 5%. The margin ticked up marginally, and still declaring a dividend. So that's why I would characterize it as a somewhat resilient set of results.
All right. Well, let's get to your stock pick. And you're picking a company that jumped 9% today.
Yes. So, I mean, one that I also hold personally as well as in client portfolios. I think it's a great company to begin with, but obviously very topical. We had the news out yesterday that the court case in the US definitely went the way of Google, so a big win for them, which was basically that the Department of Justice in the US was arguing that Google was sort of monopolistic in some areas, and that they would need to potentially forcibly or be forced to sell Google Chrome, their web browser, and potentially Android as an operating system as well, which would obviously be a massive negative for Google. And interestingly, Apple's share price rose on the day as well. So that's also linked to the fact that Google pays Apple a significant sum every year to have Google Search as the default search engine built into all of Apple's devices. So Apple benefiting off the back of that as well. What I thought was quite interesting in that court ruling was that Google is still allowed to pay Apple to have the privilege of their search being the default search device, but they are no longer allowed to be exclusive agreements. I'm interested to see if anybody else has the muscle to, get into that space and take some of that business away from Google. So we'll see how that pans out. I don't think this is the end at all, though. There was one factor that was probably not in Google's favor, which is that the judge ruled that they need to share some of their search data, which obviously Google is not going to want to do. That's a big part of their advantage. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this continue further. I don't think it's going to be wrapped up anytime soon. Likely they're going to appeal, and potentially the DOJ is also not happy with the results out of this. But as a Google shareholder, I'm pretty pleased with the results, and that share price, as you mentioned, up massively. And when we talk about a company of Google's size, a 9 or what it is, I think it was 6% in pre-market when I last looked, is a huge amount of value on the day.
Amazing. Really, really great day for Alphabet. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights on what has moved investors' money today, Jordan. That was Jordan Toy from Legacy Family Wealth.